Hello and welcome back to Call Center Helper. My name is Xander Freeman and I'm delighted to be joined by CEO and co-founder of Synthflow, Hakob Astabatsyan. Hakob, hello, thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
No, I'm so excited. Obviously, we've seen a little bit about what you guys are doing at Synthflow with Call Center Helper recently, but I thought it'd be a great chance for you and I to speak. Let's talk about your big, exciting news, your funding announcement. Please introduce it.
Yes, indeed, big news from our side. We recently raised our Series A round, 20 million USD. It is our third funding round. We had raised 10 million before, combined from pre-seed and seed rounds. And we reached at this point where this capital we're going to invest into improving and developing further our product to cater more use cases and more complicated use cases that AI can serve and bring it to our customers. And on the other side, we're also going to expand our team to deliver exceptional experience to our customers.
I think that's definitely the right way to be conveying this message, especially what could be quite crowded marketplaces. They're focusing on those use cases, and again, the people that will articulate them to end users is so important to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the trick with AI is that right now the expectations, basically the noise is gone. So the companies expect real value from AI, right? Real outcomes,
Mm.
and making actually AI work, do the work end to end, is more challenging than I think most of the companies in the beginning would expect, and that requires also lot of investment, lot of product thinking, and understanding your customer, understanding the use case. And this is where we want to double down.
No, I think you're so right, and I think so many companies get into the situation of wanting to sort of test the waters with AI, but they're not sure where to start. Those use cases are so important. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon. It's important to get the simple things right before you start that process. And I think, like I say, what you just described works perfectly for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. And then I suppose one question I want to ask you whilst you're on with me here is I watched a Bloomberg interview with you recently talking about similar news. You mentioned 15x growth over the last 2 years. What do you attribute to such a sort of drastic rise there?
Yeah, I think the being one of the first companies to offer this voice AI solution to the customers that understand context, sound like human, and take action in real time was something very appealing and actually addressed the real business need for companies, right? Especially, right, many companies suffer from missed calls, right? A lot of unanswered customer support cases, also like a lot of mundane and repetitive tasks that would require people getting on the phone, and there's just not enough resources out there. And once we brought out this solution, it immediately resonated with the customers, and it actually turned out to be a win-win situation because we were able to give to customer what they really needed. And of course, we grew as a result of that.
I think one of the really interesting use cases for voice AI is that I've seen recently, it was an article that we actually covered on Call Center Help. It was talking about how to turn your contact center into sort of a 24-hour support system, especially when you don't have agents there. AI voice agents become so fundamentally useful in that scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the interesting thing about AI is that it can work 24/7. It never gets tired. It has no emotions. So even in the most, I would say, complicated situations, right? AI can be extremely polite, extremely resilient, right? And just continue giving an answer and support to a human on the other end on the phone. And I think that what really makes AI perfectly suited for mundane and repetitive tasks, such as like maybe put an appointment into a calendar or answer a particular question or check something in the library, right? Whereas more complicated situations, in my opinion, should be handled by humans, especially more emotional situations and situations where something complicated has to be checked or sensitive, right? These things I think are reserved for humans, but the ones that are mundane and repetitive, there is no need to waste human, I would say, ingenuity and creativity on this type of tasks. Yeah.
I think it's such an important part of the conversation to be having when we're talking about a unified CX strategy. You're right. There are elements where let's keep it specific to voice AI, and it's because I've got you on call center help today. But again, it's like you say, it's there are low-hanging fruit to take there, but it's so important to have a human element still maintained within that CX strategy. And it's really interesting to see what first movers are doing with companies like yourself.
Yeah, I think what we're already seeing is that AI is augmenting humans and not by far not replacing. It's a very similar scenario that played out when computers like laptops, right, were in the market, and everyone was scared. Oh, what about my job? Because now you can do that calculation on Microsoft Excel or etc. But now suddenly we see completely new type of jobs, right, came to be, and many humans actually started doing similar job, but 10x more efficiently, right? And so I think it's just augmenting us. It brings us to a new level of productivity. And I think also what humans really, in my opinion, always strive for in their careers is to do tasks that fulfill them. And why should they waste their time on things that are repetitive or boring or not really requiring like real human skills, right? And I think that's where we'll probably find a sweet spot as a society working with AI.
I think that's a really important mentality to say, especially when having this discussion within sort of the sphere of contact centers. So I suppose we've talked about the growth over the last 2 years of Synthflow. We've talked about what your immediate plans are post funding. So you talked about scaling up your strategic positions internally, but also developing your use cases more for your go to market. I can see how that both of those would benefit consumers there. Let's end on, and you've segued me really nicely into this, so I do appreciate it. Let's talk about where you see the voice AI market changing over the next few years.
Yeah, so I think the voice AI market will continue developing rapidly for a while. And we will not have the case where AI does everything, like every phone call. But I think probably in a couple of years, AI will do most of the calls that are, as I categorize as repetitive or recurring or mundane. And because we already see that like this adoption across the board from our customers and also from other players on the market. Um, so I think in the next 2, 3 years, we'll still have this massive adoption wave. And what happens after that, it's very hard to predict. I think either the things will kind of settle down a bit, right? So that companies, it's similarly like we already have computers or other technology, we just use it and don't think about it. Or it could also be, and given how crazy the couple of past years were, like in terms of innovation, right? ChatGPT came out and then 5 models after the first one so rapidly. It could be we have another wave of innovation there where AI is um, like very very smart, right? Like and has like very like high conversational intelligence, and then we'll start thinking about more sophisticated use cases, right? But it may also be the case that we'll have to wait for that second wave to come. So we'll need to see. But for the next couple of years, I'm pretty sure we'll have this massive adoption of the current technology.
Well, I think you're positioning yourselves very strategic with Synthflow. I'm really excited to see what's coming up. I've loved what I've seen so far. Thank you so much for joining me today, and good luck with the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.